Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to an episode of DCS World. Today is a very awesome day. We have the release of the Mi-24 Hind. Today we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks to getting you started with the aircraft. We're going to go over my start procedure thus far. It's pretty simplified, but it will definitely get you up and moving. And then we'll talk about some other tips and tricks as far as flying the aircraft and getting around. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to do a full flight with this aircraft, play around with it a little bit, and check it out. All right, so first let's take a look at just a quick setting that you guys may or may not want to set for the aircraft to make things a bit easier on you. The nice thing about simulation is we can bend the rules a little bit. So we're going to come over here to the special tab and we're going to find our Mi-24. Where are you, you big girl? Did I pass it? Oh, alphabetical order, dude. Anyway, and then what I've done here is the central position trimmer mode. Okay, you have a couple of different options. It starts at default. I go to central position trimmer mode. What this does is, so you pitch, you're holding the cyclic left, a little bit to the right, a little bit down, a little bit over, whatever it may be, right, to get the aircraft stable. Then when you tap your trimmer switch, which we'll talk about in a minute when we get into controls, you tap your trimmer switch, it allows you then to let go of the stick, put it back into the central position, and the aircraft will maintain where you left it. Okay? And the reason why that's incredibly handy is it doesn't require as much effort on you as the pilot. I prefer it like this, just because sort of sometimes I sit with the cyclic at the stick at my side, so it doesn't hurt my wrist as much. And it's just a little bit easier for me to manage. So that's just a tip. Totally preference is up to you. I don't remember how the default operates. I don't worry about it. The other thing you can do too is you can set your rudder trimmer if you prefer, which means that as you tap your trimmer button, whatever the rudder or anti-torque rotor is set to, it will also be set as well. Now that one I don't typically mess with. I don't mind messing with the rudders. Okay, so that's the one I wanted to show you here. Let's get back into the cockpit and then we'll talk about some controls. All right, so stepping into the cockpit of this amazing aircraft, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the controls to help get you up and running. Now, we're not going to be going over everything today. Again, this is just to get you up and flying. Trust me, you're going to want to practice that first with this bird and then start moving into some of the other combat stuff. So first thing we're going to be looking at is the trimmer button. This is critical. This is that button I was telling you about a moment ago where you tap the button and it allows you to basically rest your hand back into the central position on the stick. It's very, very handy. And then you're also going to want the trimmer reset. Obviously this does the exact opposite. It resets the trim and sends everything back into full-on use mode. I'm going to clear some of these other controllers here that I am not using for this. What are you doing? Clear category. There we go. All right. Nothing else should be bound in those other ones. I'm not sure why the first ones were bound, truth be told. Okay, cool. Oh, nope, we do have some stuff here. Interesting. Okay, so let's clear category. Yes. And clear category. I am using RS Mapper to do my mappings, and we'll be talking about that here in just a second. So what I've done here is I've created a profile up here. Let me do this for a second. Select devices. Let's get rid of these two here. We don't want them there, and hit OK. There we go. Okay. So on the joystick, what I have done is the master mode button. So the index finger on the Thrustmaster Warthog is I've set up a quick tap, press it once for T, that sets my trimmer, and then a long press, holding that button down for 1 second or more, will do the trimmer reset. That's the first thing that we've done there. And then the other one that we are going to want, you can either use left, shift, and W, I believe it is, if we come back to the controls for a minute. Yep, and that will be the wheel parking brake. or you can bind it to the HOTAS. I just, for right now, I'm using the keyboard command. Now, one thing that we are going to want also is the landing gear. So let's go ahead and find it. Other than that, this aircraft, must be under gear, is very, very simple. So let's do, I'm going to come over here and get to my throttle over here. And let's see here, where are you? There you are. So I'm going to use my EAC here as gear up. And let's take a look at what that command was. I don't remember. Gear up was left control. So I'm just going to do a left control and G. And then trigger on release is gear down. Not gear down, gear down. And that's going to be left shift and G. And we're going to hit OK. All right. And let's get that back in the release position because we obviously want the gear down at this point. Let's do a save. Make sure we don't lose any of our control bindings. And let's see here. Let me think. So we have the trimmer. We have the trimmer reset. We have our landing gear. Wheel brake. What the heck? We'll go ahead and bind it to the stick. For right now, we'll use the paddle switch. And then if we find a different use for it later, we absolutely can reset that. So I'm just going to go parking brake. And what was that? Left, shift, and whiskey. And we'll just give that a tap there. Okay, and then do another file and save. And all I did was create a profile and called it Hind here. If you don't have RS Mapper, there will be a link to it down in the description below. It's a really awesome key mapping software that provides much more functionality than the DCS control interface does by default. Not that bad. I love DCS. You guys cannot imagine, and I've missed it. So let's see here. Let me think for a second here. I've only flown the aircraft for about an hour. That's the other thing I want you guys please keep in mind. This isn't necessarily so much a tutorial, just giving you some tips and tricks as I have been messing around with it for about an hour and a half here. I haven't had a ton of time with it. I got it the same time that you guys did. I didn't get any early access or anything like that to it. Early access, you see what I did there because it's in early access? Sorry, bad joke. Let me think here. So we have our cyclic map. Oh, access. Let's talk about access for a second. Let's go to access commands. So ones you're going to want is you're going to want the rudder. Obviously that's going to be your anti-torque propeller or anti-torque rotor. Obviously your cyclic pitch and roll. You want your collective. This is what actually increases the lift on the aircraft. And then you want your throttle. Now what I've done is the right throttle on my Thrustmaster Warthog is the collective. That's what I'm going to be going up and down with all the time to make the aircraft increase and decrease in speed and climb. And then the throttle is just our RPMs. Basically, this is sort of like a set it and forget it. You're pretty much only going to use this once, but it really does help to have it on your axis. But let's see here. I think that's all we got in relation to controls. For the moment. We're not going to talk about the weapon system today. We're just going to get up and flying. Trust me, it's just starting is quite interesting. So I'm going to do my best to get us all through it. So let's get after that segment. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at starting this aircraft up. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is come all the way over to the back panels here. And you have all of your circuit breakers on both the left and the right side over here. Grab this black handle here, give it a quick lift and hold until all the circuit breakers are up. Let go, and we will rinse and repeat on the opposite side. Now with the opposite side, you can move your mouse till about, till it basically turns green. Right, where was it? There. Give it a click, hold, let go, boom, got that done. Now let's move on down to the DC panel. And to do that, I'm actually going to move my camera over a bit. You can do that by holding right control, right shift, and the direction you want on the numpad. Okay, from here we're going to want DC power. Now there's a lady that's going to talk in her ear for a second, so I'm going to say it to you guys so that way you can hear everything. We're going to do battery right, battery left, from battery. Then we're going to come down here and hit this left inverter. Okay, so here we go. Battery, from battery, and the inverter. And we can also set the electric monitoring system to battery. Num 5 to recenter our view. With the electrical power now on, we have our fire extinguisher here. We can turn on our fuel valves, fire suppression systems, the crossfeed, external tanks if you have any, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 fuel pumps. Okay, With all fuel pumps set, we can now release the rotor brake. That's this guy right here. Just give it a click. With the rotor brake released, we can now close the cockpit door. With the cockpit door closed, we'll come over to the left side and find the APU panel and hit the start button. You can see auto on comes to life. By the way, also in the specials tab in the DCS menu, if you guys saw, when selecting the Mi-24, you can select the English cockpit. We can see the APU temperature, exhaust temperature rising, should stabilize at about 600, or 800, excuse me. And we can see the pressure rising. And we'll let the APU run for just a second. APU running, we'll turn on the dust prevention system. And now we will start the left engine. So you can see here's our engine crank switch. Up is left, down is right. We're going to press the start switch. And then immediately afterwards, induce fuel. From here, we can monitor engine 1's RPM. And we'll be looking for it to idle at about 75%. There's exhaust temperature rising. Rotor blade begins to turn. Checking things out from the gunner seat for a second. You can see the main rotor RPM here. We're going to let it stabilize before we continue. Close enough. And then we're going to come down here and repeat the process for the right engine. So right click to push it down, right fuel cutoff to fuel induction, and monitor RPMs. I feel like that did not work. So put that back into cutoff for a second. Start. There it goes. There we go. That's better. Got a good start on 2. Alright, with both engines at idle, now we'll start inducing throttle. Now before we do that, we're going to turn the dust limiter off. And now we're going to start moving our throttle axis forward. And we'll see our RPM, engine RPM, or main rotor RPM increase, and the engine RPM increase. Want to increase it slowly. There we go. Now we're going to come back over to our right panel, and again I'm going to move the camera for us so that it's a little bit easier to see. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. It's close enough. Alright, and from here we're going to want to turn our generators on, so that's going to be here. So we have left and right generators again, and turn the main generators on. Turn our rectifiers on. We can now turn the battery from, or power from battery off. and shut the inverter off. Okay. And then come back over here to our left side. We can turn our radios on. And radar altimeter. We can turn our navigation system on. Radar. Our IFF. Our main radio. The comp system. Let me get you a better view here. Flip this over to comp. Test the vertical gyros. So uncage 1. You see, you saw how the ADI did. And test 2. Turn the adjust stops off. Or on. Duh. You guys know what I meant. The opposite of where it was. Alright, let's clear this for a second. Coming down here, we can turn our autopilot augmentation system on. Basically like the SAS and some of the other aircraft, but not quite. So green light here on the first one, the roll. Then our yaw and our pitch. Recenter our camera. Now the one thing I don't like is it saying that my doors are unsealed. Oh, did I miss that step? I thought I grabbed that, guys. So, sorry about that if I didn't turn that far enough. Just so we're on the same page here. So, this should have been done before we closed the door and started the APU. So, basically how I do is left and right circuit breakers are right and left batteries, power from battery, the inverter, and then pressurize the system. So, I don't know if I just didn't turn that far enough or what. I could have sworn I did that. Alright, but either way, we are now ready to fly this amazing helicopter. Alright, so quick disclaimer here. The flying that I did do in this aircraft was in VR. So, which by the way is an amazing experience. This aircraft does so much better in VR than I was anticipating it to. It was smooth as butter. So, anyway, and by the way, PC specs, everyone always asks, they are in the description below. So, let's go ahead and we're just going to work straight from a takeoff. Now, I'm simply going to start adding some collective, but I'm going to pull back and to the right a little bit. Watch the cyclic up in the top left. I'm going to add some collective and start determining which way she wants to roll. So she's going to want to go to the right, so I'm countering with left. Okay. And I don't normally do it this sloppy, okay, guys? I'm just trying to show you what it's doing and what I'm countering with. So I'm adding right. Okay. So now that you guys have seen the kind of behavior what it's going to do, let's do that a little bit smoother. So adding collective, just watch all my controls on the right there. The trick is, with any of these helicopters, is get comfortable with them. Now I'm going to tap that trim button I told you about. And there, now I can center the stick and I'm not breaking my wrist. And it makes it a lot easier to start getting some control over it. Okay. So start adding some anti-torque rotor to turn us to the right. She's a little rocky when you first pick her up. In ground effect, she doesn't like it. She doesn't like ground effect, as most helicopters. Let's go ahead and bring the gear up. Oh no, you're not responding to me. You're killing me, Smalls. There we go. Good old G on the keyboard will work if you run out of options. But you can see here that she's really quite stable once you get comfortable with it. I mean, my hands are off the cyclic right now, guys. I am off the controls. Okay, so you can go ahead and set it pretty well. We're going to start pitching forward a little bit. You can see we're listing to the right. He's listing lazily to the left. Good move. And let's just start pitching forward. Cyclic nose down. A little bit nose down, adding some collective so we don't sink. More collective nose down, or cyclic nose down, excuse me. Down, 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 down. Start slowly getting her rolling. Really increasing the collective now. Now, I'm having to put a lot of left input on my actual flight stick to keep it from going right. So I'm putting it to where I need to go straight, tapping that trim button again, and now I can center my stick again. Now I'm obviously pulling aft. Another tap again. And as she gets speed, we're going to start to want to climb. So again, you're going to have to do more nose pitch down to get her to sit still. But there you have it, guys. We are up and moving in an Mi-24 Hind. Alright, sorry about that. Had a quick interruption. But anyways, now to get on to how this aircraft is, man. This thing is so much fun. Now, what I haven't gotten to do really a whole lot of is figuring out the right way to turn it. Because I can tell you right now, if you get too crazy with it, like let's put a ton of anti-torque into it, she rolls big time. And it seems to be regardless of cyclic ink, but I mean, it will. I think it's definitely a very common theme with some of the Russian aircraft is that they'll kill you if you're not nice to them. If you don't respect them, man, they'll take you out. But it's a ton of fun to fly. It feels cool. And I will say that the VR experience, I think... So, let me back up here. VR experience in general in DCS really, really shines. But I think helicopters is where it dominates. I really do. You get... That depth perception is so much more critical than I feel in some of the other aircraft. That's why I sort of fly this a little bit on the goofy side. Plus, you know, I've been flying it for a whopping 4 seconds, so, you know, but VR in this thing is just a blast. How fast are we going? Let's see here, where are we? What is that? No, that's our, looks like vertical velocity indicator. Oh, no. That's meters. That's got to be the vertical velocity. That's our altimeter. Speed, there we go. Looks like 70, what would that be, kilometers? Oh, not even that. 30 kilometers looks like. So let's see if we can talk about bringing this thing down now. So to bring her down, again, still learning, keep that in mind, please. It's not necessarily a tutorial, just showing you guys what I do. We're going to first start pulling off some collective. Watch the controls on the left-hand side there. Start coming nose up, and I'm going to continue to retrim the aircraft as flight dynamics change. Ooh, baby, come on. Alright, so I'm actually going to hold the reset. There we go. So I did the trimmer reset there because I had trimmed it too far one direction. So my right cyclic input wasn't having any effect. So now we'll start trimming right. Okay. Oof. See, and I promise I don't do this in VR. I'm just gonna reset it. Let's just reset it. Whoa! There we go. Alright, so I'm gonna leave the trim off, I think. Let's just fly her in manually. The thing about helicopters in general is less is more on the inputs, and that's a hard one to wrap your head around if you haven't flown a helicopter in a while. I'm going to bring the gear down. Getting that nose up to arrest our forward momentum. Watching our speed, watching that descent rate. aim for that little pad out there in the right. And after flying this, I would recommend adding a bit of a curve to the cyclic, a positive curve. It's very, very sensitive. And I know that there is a reduction that you can do to make the controls not quite so sensitive once we're airborne, but I'm leaving that off on purpose. I'm taking Wags' advice from his video and just getting used to the helicopter. But everything's in small movements. I'm trying to find that sweet spot of where she'll just sit still. Baby, come on. Here we go. Uh-oh, we are in VRS, vertical ring state. Bam! Okay. Came down way too hard on that one. So, anyways, long story short, again, this was just a review of the aircraft, guys, sort of giving you my tips and tricks. Apparently that landing failed, which sucks because my last 3 were actually really good. And again, I think the biggest thing is not being in VR. VR is such a big game changer for flight simulation in general, but definitely for DCS World. Don't let my poor flying there fool you guys. This is an amazing aircraft. It is incredibly fun. It's extremely challenging. She likes to fight you. You're going to have a lot of time. You're going to be spending a lot of time just getting familiar with it, getting comfortable with it, learning how it maneuvers, what it likes and what it doesn't like. It's very, very different from flying, say, the UH-1. The UH-1 is much, much more user-friendly and much more forgiving than the Hind is. But this is going to be absolutely a blast to learn. It's our first real attack helicopter for DCS World. I mean, the Black Shark is absolutely an attack helicopter. I'll take that back. But it's definitely the more challenging, I would say, of the two. I think even the Black Shark is easier to fly than the Hind is, but it is a ton of fun. I'm going to be continuing to progress with these videos. We're going to continue flying it as I learn more and more and get more comfortable with it and learn more tips and tricks. I will definitely be sharing those until we can build into an actual tutorial on how to fly this helicopter. So for those of you who didn't catch what happened there at the end, I reduced the collective too fast. In a helicopter, if you start sinking faster than what the down pressure that your rotors are generating, you get in what's called vertical ring state, which basically means the aircraft is falling faster than the lift generated by the main rotors. Okay, and once you get into it, you need a ton typically of altitude to get out of it. Otherwise, you see what happens there. You lose all lift on the rotors and you slam into the ground like a piano. So lessons learned. Glad you guys got to see it. I like it when people see my mistakes just as much as the good stuff, as long as you understand why they happened. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe, guys. Hit that bell for notifications of future content, because there's going to be a lot more coming, especially for the Hind. We've got a bunch of DCS videos lined up and just about ready to be released. So we've got much more content coming, and it's really refreshing to have a new aircraft in DCS again. And I'm really excited to see what it brings to the simulator. So as always, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.